Hi, I'm Chris Bishop and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Edge. Now this week we're out on the road again in Woodmead in Johannesburg. We're here for an offbeat entrepreneurial story, the story of a music man who once interviewed John Lennon, by the way, who got his first big break thanks to a singing footballer. A friendship that's lasted more than 40 years. There can be few entrepreneurs who can credit their first big break to a singing footballer with a black belt in karate. Fewer still get the chance to say thank you. In the late 1960s, David Gresham was a struggling songwriter with songs that no one wanted to sing. The only person who would take a chance on him was a folk singer called Sean Rennie, who came to Johannesburg from Northern Ireland to play professional football for southern suburbs.
I was invited to sing at this folk festival in '69, I think it was, and I opened the show with a song in the Gaelic language called My Lagan Love, and at the interval I had 3 recording offers. David, as I said, when he and I shook hands, I thought, this is a guy, I like this guy, and we've been friends ever since, 40 odd years.
I heard this footballer, Sean Rennie, singing, and I thought, wow, he really would work for the song that I composed. And I went up to him and I said, look, I've written some songs. Unfortunately, nobody likes them, but I think they're a hit. I love your voice. Will you take a shot with me? And he responded dramatically, yes.
I'll walk with you.
The song Walk With You went into the top 10. Gresham Records survived, an entrepreneurial career in music was born. So if you hadn't met Sean that night in a folk club in Santon, that you wouldn't have started off as a music entrepreneur, you think?
I don't know what life would have held for me, but I know it was a lucky time, a lucky break. Whoever was, somebody up there maybe liked me and said, okay, he's not going to get this done, let him do it on his own. Because I think if someone else would have produced them, I probably would have carried on trying to write. And I'm not really a great composer, but I think this was a forced opportunity. And it did really have 5 stars for me.
And how did the record go?
We went top 10, then we went top 5 with the second one. Then we had a flop. I call it a flop because we only bubbled under the charts. And then some years later, just a year and a half later, 2 years later, Alan Goldswain came to the company as my partner. I had met him through Matt Lange, who produced Def Leppard and AC/DC and Foreigner, and he had married Shania Twain much later. And when they got together, we produced Charlie, and that was #1 for us.
So yourself, you've got deep roots in music as well, and I understand you, in your early days, interviewed the late John Lennon.
That was the year I met Sean was an enormous year. I went to London as a guest of a friend and Gary Osborne.
And this was 1968?
69. I met Sean in actually April 69. And in July 60, we had just touched base. And in July 69, I was invited to go to London through a friend, his name was Gary Osborne, who much later on was a co-composer with Elton John when Bernie Taupin pulled out. And he took me to a speakeasy club in London, and I met a lot of people there. One of them being John Lennon's manager, roadie, or whatever he was, and mentioned that the music was banned. And I'd like to interview him, and he said no. And the next day I got a call from Gary. He said, you're not going to believe this. Can you get to Apple this afternoon at 3 o'clock? Because Lennon wants to talk to you. And he wants you to meet Yoko and tell him about South Africa, and Paul McCartney was there, and yeah, that's what happened in '69.
And you interviewed him, the whole thing that got him banned?
Yeah, it was the thing that got him banned was maintaining that the Beatles were more popular than Christ because they could fill out the dance halls and nobody was going to church.
And then you brought it back here to Africa.
Correct.
And then what happened?
Well, I took it to EMI because they were EMI artists. And the then MD, whose name escapes me, presented it with me to the SABC. And regrettably, there was a remark in the interview where Lennon maintains that he was a fan of Christ and they rejected it because apparently you have to be a follower. And that was kind of strange for me because kids talk about fans, not following. And I think we missed a great opportunity at that time. But much later, when the ban was lifted, many years, 10, 15 years later, it went on the air via Peter de Nobrega at Radio 5.
So back to you as an entrepreneur, how did you build this business, obviously from ground level upwards?
Well, once I had the input of having a successful record, I was able to make contact with new artists in South Africa. I started going to the festivals internationally, like Midem, which is in Cannes, France, which is the record festival of any business. It's a trade fair of note, and started meeting international people, and at the same time able to represent them in South Africa. So suddenly I was getting international product for the company, and we started really building from there onwards.
And how small were your beginnings in terms of money? I mean, do you remember your first turnover?
I think it was the first year was a few $100,000, but the strangest thing about this was that Alan Goldswain and myself formed this partnership to do radio jingles. And we did, I say we, he was the talent, I was the salesman. But we did thousands of jingles from major companies, sweet companies, gas companies, and we had done, I think, 5,000 jingles. We used all that money. He played, and all the money I earned from SABC would pay my rent. And the money we earned from the jingles and the sales went back into the kitty.
Now, what you do, a lot of people would like to do it. A lot of people like music and think, wouldn't it be fun to be an entrepreneur in something they love? But tell us the other side of the business. How tough is it?
The business has always been tough because you're actually trying to select a hit song for the public. And that is difficult. But there's a team who does that. Today I'm extremely democratic because I think I have very weak ears compared to my team. But I do believe that today the industry has hit a brick wall because of the downloads, the free product that becomes available, piracy. However, there's one redeeming factor that I believed in 2.5 years ago, and it may be possible this is coming to the fore, and it's a thing called vinyl. Suddenly, there's vinyl being advertised, there's vinyl being sold. I believe the first quarter in America, 3 million vinyls, and first quarter in the UK, 1 million. And this week, I observed in a catalogue the front page vinyl.
So you think it's coming back full circle?
It may never be what it was, but there are ways of doing it. In other words, if people buy the vinyl, give away the MP3s of that vinyl for their computers.
Because isn't that a bit of a fallacy of the music business? Everyone sees people on stage and think, oh, these guys must be rich, they must be successful. But people have said to me that a lot of these bands have to continue touring well into old age.
Correct.
Because they can't get the money from the records anymore.
You know, today we talk about a 360-degree signing. When you sign an artist, we believe that you have to do it or sign them in a 360-degree contract, which means you promote them, you pay for advertising, you get them on TV, but you're also then entitled to a percentage, even be it small, a commission of their live performances. That's how we work.
What's the worst days for you being as an entrepreneur in this business?
The worst days? Every day I wake up thinking, what's happening to the record industry? But it's a passion. And as I get older, I want to believe that I can wake up in the morning and be at the office with the team and leave late, listen to music. And I believe if one doesn't experience the passion of music, you shouldn't be in the music industry.
Well, do you think it's a place for young people now?
I think it is a place for young people because music's never going to die. And the talent out there is amazing. We have discovered amazing talent in South Africa. Connell Cruz went to #1 recently with Not Just Friends. You mentioned Connell and somebody said, "Ooh, who's Connell Cruz?" You played them the song and everyone said, "Wow, I love that." That's only because there was a first track. As he grows in music, so he will grow. We had the same experience, incidentally, with a band many, many years ago called Nickelback. We had 2 flop albums, and then we brought on a song called How You Remind Me. Nobody knew who Nickelback was, but when they heard the track, they realized, they heard the song, wow, I love this band. And now Nickelback is the name, and the song is, although it's still there, it's years gone by.
What advice would you give young people maybe looking to follow your footsteps as a music entrepreneur?
I could only say that you have to have a passion for music. You have to realize that the industry has changed. You possibly have to have a knowledge of what radio is and radio is playing and what videos are being made, produced, because you need to know where music is going to. And honestly, we have a facility here, not all the time, but where we have interns, young people who come to us and say, we'd like to spend 3 months with you. And I encourage that.
And how do you want to be remembered in the music business of Africa?
Oh, I just think I kept my feet on the ground and always reached for the stars.
That was your handle on radio, was it?
That was, yeah, I stole it, but it was a good one.
And to the future now, where's Gresham Records going?
Well, we've got some new artists. As I said, Connell, Andre Schwartz makes a return after 11 years with an Afrikaans album. We've got Steve Hofmeyer's son joining us as an artist, Armand, talented as they are, wonderful artist. And Amore Vitoni is keen to release an album signed to us. So we're trying our best to expand, but I've decided that I want to do more locally, because local music now is being recognized as a major part of our industry, whereas many years ago, they would ignore local music.
I wish you the best of luck and many more years in the business.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, well, what a great story. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for on this edition of the Entrepreneurial Edge. From me, Chris Bishop, in Woodmead, in Johannesburg, it's goodbye.